Liberia, West Africa. Isn't that something? Bishop R.Lenard Moore Christian School. And I have a school named after me. But at any rate, glad to have you in my office. If I knew you were coming, I would have cleaned up. And I was wondering, what could I talk about? I'm getting ready for this evening to do my recording, and I was wondering what could I, talk about. This is my private prayer chamber. Don't let a lot of people back here these items from the Holy Land, and God has been good to me, been real good to you. My prayer altar and so on and so forth. And so, what am I going to talk about this evening? I'm going to do a recording this evening on uh, get ready for Sunday morning. What can I talk about? I'm just going to look around and whatever I find, that's what I'm going to talk about this evening. What can I preach about? I could talk about a lion. I could talk about a chair. I could talk about, oh man, what could I talk about? I know what I talk about. I'm going to talk about this, the Ten Commandments this evening. Yeah, that's what I'm going to talk about. And so now, yeah, that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to get a message together on the Ten Commandments. And yeah, that's what I'm going to talk about. And people have been hearing about the Ten Commandments for many years. And so what can we learn about the Ten Commandments? Well, the Ten Commandments are written in stone, and God put His word in stone so that it would be there permanent. But yet He put it in something more deeper, more concrete, more solid than stone. He put His word in our heart. Thy word have I hid in my heart, that I might not sin against God. Being I am an educator, professor of theology, from a theological point of view, what do the Ten Commandments represent? Well, the first four commandments, they represent our relationship to God. The last six commandments represent our relationship with each other. Let's walk through each one of them. The outline would be, the first one would be the fundamental rule, and that's Exodus chapter 20, verses 1 through 3. Thou shalt have no other God before me. That's the fundamental rule. The second rule would be verses 4 through 6, the focus rule. The third rule would be number 7, the fibrous rule. The fourth rule would be verses 8 through 11, the fidelity rule, the frailty rule. And then number 5, that would be the family rule, and that would be Exodus chapter 20, verse 12. And then you have the felony rule, that's number 6, the felony rule, and that's Exodus chapter 20, verse 13. Then you have the fidelity rule, Exodus chapter 20, verse 14. And then number 8, you would have the fraud rule. That's Exodus 20:15. Then you have the false rule, false witness rule. That would be Exodus chapter 20, verse 16. And then you would have the final rule, Exodus chapter 20, verse 17. So now let's look at it again. The fundamental rule, thou shalt have no other God before me. The focus rule, you should not make any graven idols or images. The fibrous rule, do not take his name in vain. The frailty rule, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. The family rule, honor thy father and thy mother. The felony rule, thou shalt not commit murder. The fidelity rule, thou shalt not commit adultery. The fraud rule, thou shalt not steal. The false witness rule, thou shalt not bear false witness. And the final rule, thou shalt not covet anything that belong to thy neighbor. So now this is God's commandment written in stone. God loves us. He always have and he always will. And if we follow these rules, God will bless us. Remember, we are blessed by the best. If we keep his commandments, we will be blessed by the best. But if we disobey him, God will not bless our mess. How that sound? So this is my outline of the 10 commandments. And just walking around here in my office, I'm just walking around choosing things that I could preach about. So you all heard my outline for the 10 commandments. And you tell me whether or not you think that we'll preach. This is Bishop Ricky Moore. And I just thought that up out of my heart, and it came out of my mouth. I think it will preach. What do you think? Again, be blessed and have a great, awesome, amazing day. God bless you all until we meet again.